The last decade or so has seen a paradigm shift when it comes to power, when it comes to security, or whether it comes to the water crisis of the South Asian region. Now, China has been coming on as a global power, right in front of the US. The tensions between Pakistan and India, they have been on the rise for the last few months or at least a year now. How do we go about it? How do we fix this problem? How do we fix the whole region? Because if the two nations, Pakistan and India, if they're not doing their job in making sure that there's peace in the region, there will always be this sense of insecurity between the nations, between the people of these two nations. Now, let's talk about water crisis. That has been a major issue for the past few years now, and now Pakistan is facing water drought. By the year 2025, we will be facing water drought. All the experts have been saying that. To speak about these issues, I invited Dr. Chandran, and I'll speak to him about the paradigm shifts, the power struggle, and how to resolve the issues in South Asian region. So, Dr. Chandran, you've been working as a professor at the National Institute of Advanced Studies in India, and this isn't the first time that you're speaking about the paradigm shift in security issues and all. But water wars, let's talk about that. Water wars is a very debated paradigm of security studies. Now, currently, how affected will Pakistan be by this, seeing the current water shortage in the country?
See, water crisis is a regional problem. It's just not only Pakistan. From Afghanistan to Bangladesh, Nepal to Sri Lanka, all countries have water problem. It's not only access to water, it's also access to clean water, the water that you could use. There is a serious problem in terms of water availability. There's a water scarcity. All the countries are facing, all the sub-regions are facing. So that's one, that the scarcity and water depletion is a fact that we have to address as individually, as countries, as also as a region. The second, the point that you made on water wars, this is a new paradigm. If you know, this was not the case 10 years before or 15 years before. Suddenly, water has become a highly emotional issue within the countries and also between the countries. The idea of water war is relatively new. It was not the case. And if you also look at the people who are using water as a conflict, these are not the people who are from the agricultural background. These are the urban, political, media, security analysts who are using water as a tool of projection, conflict projection. There are larger issues that the countries will have to address internally, domestically, in terms of addressing water scarcity. Unfortunately, it is not happening. Instead, we are trying to blame the other. For example, between the provinces or between the states, there are serious issues which we don't want to address. It is easier to blame the other. For example, in South India, where I come from, Tamil Nadu blaming Karnataka, or in Pakistan, Sindh and Punjab. It is easy to put the blame on the others. It is also easier to make political mileage of the water issue. As a larger security issue, water has become a tool of, it has become a conflict tool. You would have never talked in terms of water conflict, water war between India and Pakistan until the last 10 years. We had, there were other issues that were bone of contention. Indus was never a bone of contention. And we always, in India and Pakistan, used to say that Indus Water Treaty has survived, which means, this is the recent phenomenon. But it's not only between India and Pakistan, it's between India and Bangladesh, it's between many other countries, But in other regions, for example, in Mekong, the way the countries of the Mekong basin have come together to exploit Mekong in a positive sense. The number of projects on Mekong, international projects on Mekong, is quite substantial. Money is huge. From protecting Mekong dolphins to Mekong tourism, there is so much. The countries that get benefited out of the Mekong River. Unfortunately, in South Asia, we see rivers as, we see this river belong to me, instead of using the river as a shared product. It's unfortunate in South Asia, we do not see rivers as a common, as a regional common. It is very difficult for us to accept. I may be an upper riparian vis-a-vis one region, but I am also a lower riparian vis-a-vis the other. For example, India vis-a-vis Pakistan, it's a upper riparian on the Indus River. India is a lower riparian vis-a-vis the same Indus River when it comes to China. Within Pakistan, Punjab province is an upper riparian vis-a-vis Sindh, but vis-a-vis the rest of the region, it's a lower riparian. So this, that we are both upper riparian, lower riparian, hasn't got into the realization of the people, unless we see water as a common
problem or a solution for.
no, water is not a problem. Water is a common resource that we need to make use of it. Instead, we want to take ownership. This river belongs to me, you cannot do anything. That ownership.
In your speech, you spoke about Germany and France and how they've been fighting for centuries, but there came a time where they've started doing businesses, coal business and steel business. And do you see that happening to Pakistan and India? Because in your speech, you also spoke about how, for the sake of the region even, Pakistan and India won't be able to do the same.
See, you look at France and Germany, how long did they fight, and how much time it took for them to realize this is not going anywhere. It almost, I think, more than 4 or 5 generations they were fighting. We are relatively young nations, India and Pakistan, and we have not fought that harshly as the French and the Germans have fought during the First and the Second World War, or even before the First and Second World War, right from the Franco-Prussian War. The way the French and the Germans fought was much more disastrous than us. But what united the French and the German is the post-Second World War recovery program, and the Americans, the Marshall program also helped that process. Unfortunately, in the India-Pakistan context, we have not come to that level yet, nor the external inputs are helping us to work together. In the Franco-Russian, for a Franco-German case, the Marshall Fund and the Americans did play a positive role in bringing them together. But then they did come together. See, we are a young nation, 47 to 2017, not even 2 generations.
About 72 years.
Please don't lose hope.
Okay.
And also please don't lose hope on what we have done better. Despite 48 and 65 war, we had the Indus Water Treaty. None of the India-Pakistan wars were full-blown war. We fought, but it was limited to a small territory. The agreements that we have signed between 2004 and 2008 on line of control, on cross-LOC bus, cross-LOC truck, they were remarkably revolutionary steps when compared to what we achieved between 1947 to 97. So there is also it's not that the India-Pakistan relations is always on a hostile path. There are seasons in which we have worked better. And as a society, I think the society in South Asia, there is still so much of passion and compassion left. It hasn't gone yet.
Pakistan and India's problems are different. I mean, if you look at the region, if you look at the bigger picture, do we ever realize, or will we ever realize that, for the sake of the region, we have to stop fighting, just like, let's say, Germany and France did?
There is, in the history of civilization, there are no 2 countries that have fought forever, from the Roman Empire to the Franco-German reconciliation. No 2 countries have fought together. There were seasons in which you are more hostile than normal. We see India and Pakistan from Pakistanis. If you are in Delhi, then we will also look at India and China as well. We have been fighting Afghanistan as well. So this bilateral, this hostility is not forever. No 2 countries have fought forever in the history. So it's a matter of time. Maybe in the Indo-Pak context, this will take more time. But I'm hoping, I'm pretty confident, because if a Pakistani visit India, is there an Indian that will say, I will not host you for an evening dinner or a tea? Or if I am visiting here and if I tell, I want to come to your home, will there be a Pakistani who will say, no, you can't come to my home? It's absolutely not going to happen, because the passion, the compassion, not only with Indian and Pakistani, we as a society, this is a very compassionate society. Right. It's only a matter of time.
Okay. So, let's talk about the security issues in the region as well. Now, the expanding security issues in the non-traditional paradigm, how can Pakistan cater to, ensure these security measures or keep up with the advancing global security paradigms?
See, I think on the non-traditional security issues, there are 2 or 3 issues that are very important. All countries in South Asia have to address this. Education. I think we are as a region, we invest the least in education. And the second major area is we invest the least in health. I think these 2 are primary areas that all South Asian countries have to invest in. The third is the Human Development Index. This is where the Sustainable Development Goals of United Nations, the 16+1 points the UN has come up with, if we address this as a region, I think if we make this as our priority, I think all countries in the region will go a long way. Please keep this in mind, Pakistan is not unique in the region. You go to Nepal, you go to Bangladesh, you will have the same questions. You come to many parts of India, you will ask the same question. So I think we as a region, we are on the same boat. Education, health will do the trick.
Necessity. Let's talk about the refugee crisis. Pakistan has been facing refugee crisis for more than 2 decades now, 2.5 decades now, and India has faced the same. Now, the role of refugees in aggravating the conflict situation in Pakistan, how do you see that?
See, this region as a region,
because it has not only affected Pakistan, it has
absolutely absolutely. This region is known for hosting people from outside. I think it's a part of the regional ethos. If any of us have to say, refugees are not welcome, I think we are not looking at a history. That's Indians have hosted from Sri Lanka, Myanmar, Tibet. Pakistan has hosted the number of refugees that Pakistan was able to take from Afghanistan was amazing. So this region has hosted refugees. There were issues, economic issues, which countries took it on their stride. Now it became an issue when refugees became a political tool for achieving a particular goal. Yeah, my consideration today is, refugees are a political tool than a political liability. If you can see the society always, the number of Sri Lankan Tamil refugees who came to my state in South India, the civil society was willing to work with them, willing to accept it. I think at the civil society level, the number is substantial, but it's not something that they cannot live with. It comes to the politics, whether you want to see them as an asset or you want to see them as a liability. For the West, let us talk about Western Europe. Refugees from Eastern Europe during Cold War were an asset. Now they are a liability. The number is the same, people are the same. So, it's the attitude towards the value that they bring in, it has changed, political value that they bring in. So, West sees we don't want refugees. I think we also are getting carried away by the same notion. The West says no to refugees, so we also say this is not our ethos. I sincerely believe more than the refugees, it is the policy of the government on how you use the refugees as a political tool in your dealing with your neighbors. I gave the example of how India used the refugees in Sri Lankan case. Yeah. So it's just not the Sri Lankan refugees per se create the problem, it's how the country pursue the refugees in terms of advancing your,
and the bilateral ties between the two countries.
See, for India, Tibetan refugees is not an issue at all. Why? Because they come from Tibet. Tibet has a significant value to it. And second, I think the Tibetan refugees also assimilate themselves despite keeping their identity. So this is something that the refugees also have to, so Tibetan refugees are much more enterprising than any other refugees. So they also kind of keep their identity but still assimilate. And the refugee population, for example, the Rohingya population, if they come with less or no values, value in the sense, that's something that you can add to the local economy, then they are seen as a complete liability. So in certain cases, some refugees are not, do not have that, But in most of the cases, I think our refugees have contributed a bit to our economy.